December 7, 1941. Hundreds of planes are launched by 6 Japanese carriers to attack Pearl Harbor. Soldiers jump from burning warships. Before they can even leave the tarmac, fighter planes explode. It is one of the bloodiest attacks in U.S. history, and absolutely nobody saw it coming. But we're going to change just one detail. Anchored off the island is a site no one understands. A 100,000-ton nuclear-powered supercarrier from 2017. The USS Gerald R. has been dropped into a battle it was never intended to fight. So, during one of history's most infamous attacks, what happens when the most advanced carrier on Earth is unleashed? Can it truly turn the tides of war, or is it just one carrier facing 6? First, let's examine exactly what we just dropped into the year 1941. The Gerald R. is a behemoth. It spans nearly 1,100 feet, 3.5 football fields, moves at 35 miles per hour, 56 kilometers per hour, and weighs 100,000 tons, or 200 million pounds. It's powered by 2 nuclear reactors that could run for 20 years without refueling. It is equipped with a dual-band radar system capable of simultaneously tracking hundreds of targets from over 250 miles away and carries 75 onboard aircraft. These include FLA-18 Super Hornets that fly at Mach 1.8, F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters that are invisible to 1941 radar, EA-18G Growlers capable of frying enemy electronics, and E-2D Hawkeye planes with 350 miles of radar coverage. The ship itself is protected by RIM-162 Sea Sparrow missiles that cruise at Mach 4, RIM-116 rolling airframe missiles for anything that gets close, and 3 Phalanx CIWS systems that can fire 4,500 rounds per minute. But Admiral Kiichi Nagumo's strike force is certainly no joke either. Let's take a look at what we're up against. In total, there are 6 fleet carriers: Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, Shokaku, and Zuikaku, the apex predators of 1941 naval warfare. Their air wings pack 353 aircraft flown by the best pilots in the world. Among these are the fast and agile Mitsubishi A6M0, Adichie D3A dive bombers, and Nakajima B5N torpedo bombers carrying specially modified shallow-water torpedoes designed specifically for Pearl Harbor. These pilots have been training for months under Commander Mitsuo Fuchida. They built scale models of Pearl Harbor and practiced until they could fly the attack route blindfolded. The Japanese plan is devastatingly simple. Send in 2 waves. The first is to hit airfields and battleships simultaneously to prevent any American response, and the second is to take out whatever remains. Historically, it works perfectly. It's 5:30 a.m. Japanese pilots are receiving their final briefings, 230 miles north of Oahu, when the Gerald R. radar operators notice something intriguing. Blips on their screens appear to be moving directly towards them at 180 knots. The Ford's Combat Information Center immediately lights up, and within seconds, the ship's computers have identified all 183 aircraft in the first wave. Their speed, altitude, heading, and even an estimate of their fuel state are all tracked by the radar. The carrier's captain doesn't hesitate. General quarters sounds throughout the ship, ordering pilots to their aircraft. Within minutes, the electromagnetic catapults begin launching the first fighters to respond. By 6 a.m., a squadron of Super Hornets is airborne, rapidly climbing to 40,000 feet. Below them, Japanese pilots in open cockpits are still 150 miles from Pearl Harbor, completely unaware they are being stalked. The first AMRAAM missile launches at 6:45 a.m. From the Japanese perspective, Petty Officer Takeshi Maeda is checking his fuel gauge when the plane next to him disintegrates before his eyes. There was no warning, and still no enemy in sight. Panic rips through the formation as pilots desperately search for an enemy that is attacking from beyond visual range. Some climb frantically, while others dive for the deck. In seconds, the tight attack formation that took months to perfect dissolves into chaos. The Super Hornets are the first attackers, engaging from 30 miles away as their radar-guided missiles make the pilots' job a matter of fire and forget. Commander Fukita tries to restore order over the radio, but he notices something is terribly wrong. Several of his planes are missing, but even the ones still in the air aren't responding to his call. EA-18G Growlers have arrived. Their electronic warfare is rendering every Japanese radio useless. The coordinated Japanese team is now deaf and alone on an empty horizon, hunted by a predator they have yet to see. The first wave loses 60 aircraft before Pearl Harbor even enters view, but the Japanese press on to finish their mission. As the pilots approach the harbor, they meet the Ford's second line of defense. F-35C Lightning Eyes circling them at 15,000 feet. The Japanese pilots finally get to see who they are fighting, but the F-35s engage with infrared missiles that lock onto engine heat, and the outcome is the same. More Zeros fall from the sky, leaving thick trails of smoke in their wake. While the fight rages above, torpedo bombers drop to wave height in a desperate attempt to make their attack run. At this point, the Ford's Phalanx CIWS systems activate, firing thousands of tungsten projectiles that shred any unauthorized aircraft that enter within a 3-mile radius of the carrier. By 8 a.m., when the attack should be reaching its crescendo, Battleship Row sits untouched. Only a handful of Japanese planes barely make it through and release their bombs haphazardly. Most hit the water, but the few that find targets face alert American anti-aircraft crews who have had over an hour since the Gerald entered the base to prepare for the attack. With their radar still jammed, the Japanese carriers have no idea what is happening. Their only option is to assume they are still on schedule and send out the second wave. 170 aircraft heading directly for a nest of Super Hornets with missiles ready, waiting at 35,000 feet. At 8:40 a.m., Lieutenant Commander Shigekazu Shimazaki leads the second wave south. But by this time, the Ford has already launched everything it needs. The entire fleet is tracked on radar, while the Growlers have already jammed their radios. F-35s prowl at medium altitude, while Super Hornets set up a killing box. The massacre only intensifies as the Japanese formation enters Pearl Harbor's airspace. Now they face not just jets, but the Ford's close-in defenses, as well as every alerted naval a battery on Oahu. The sky becomes a web of exploding shells and tracer fire that decimates the attackers. By 9:45 a.m., the second wave has lost over 140 aircraft. The few survivors scatter across the Pacific, most running out of fuel before ever finding their carriers. Shimazaki himself dies when a Phalanx system turns his torpedo bomber into confetti 1,000 yards from Battleship Row. But the Ford isn't done. As Japanese aircraft flee north, the carrier launches a strike package. 30 Super Hornets armed with Harpoon anti-ship missiles, laser-guided bombs, and coordinates to the Japanese fleet's last known position. The Japanese air fleet, the Kido Butai, has no more air support. Every fighter is either in the water or running on fumes. Lookouts spot the incoming jets, but their anti-aircraft guns are designed for planes flying 300 miles per hour, not 1,200 miles per hour. All they can do is watch. The Akagi takes 3 Harpoon missiles to its center and splits in half. The Kaga's aviation fuel detonates after a direct hit from a 2,000-pound laser-guided bomb. Within 20 minutes, 4 Japanese carriers are burning and sinking. The remaining 2 flee west at flank speed as their captains desperately radio reports about missiles that guide themselves and jets that fly faster than sound. But Growlers are still in the air, and the only people receiving their messages are the ones standing next to them. When the smoke clears, the Battle of Pearl Harbor has become Japan's worst naval defeat. They lose over 300 aircraft, 4 fleet carriers, and their best pilots. Meanwhile, American casualties number only in the dozens, and the Pacific Fleet is ready for war. Or what do you think would happen? And if you're curious about what would happen if a Navy SEAL fought in the Colosseum, check out the video on the screen now. Thanks for watching.